That's pretty interesting. I'm paying for the show. He's going to tell me who I'm going to have on the show. I don't think I like that. My guidance said, listen. I said, okay. So I got on Pyradyne's website and I said, wow, this is going to be fun. So I got my receptor about a month before Dr. Fred was on the show. And I was just fascinated. I thought he was just not only a wild man, but a heck of a lot of fun. so informative, and I just was jazzed. So that started more involvement. I started calling Dr. Fred's office and talking to Mikkel and to Mitch and occasionally to Dr. Fred. And he's an awful busy guy, you know. And I decided that I was going to have to do something. Now, up to that point, I had Andromedans crowding in my kitchen every morning, and I'd come out rubbing the sleep from my eyes and look around and go, oh, hi. I said, what do you want? What are you guys all doing here? And I wasn't quite getting the full communication. So that happened for a long time, and I was getting the urge to get more of this stuff. And I heard about the projectors and the irradiators and all that. I thought, man, just give me 30 minutes in Dr. Fred's living room, and I'll manifest my entire life. And I wanted it so bad. And so then I had a couple of really interesting things happen. The ex-boyfriend is a retired master plumber. And so he's over at the house one night, and we're watching television, and he gets up to go pee. And he comes back and sits down. About an hour later, he goes back and says, oh my God, it's a flood! So I had 3 inches of water from the toilet running down through my house. And I stood at the end of the hallway and I looked at this as it ran into all 3 bedrooms, which, by the way, were full of heavy wood furniture that I couldn't move, built-ins, and lots of papers and books. And I looked at that and said, that's interesting. And turned around and got the wet back, and we spent several hours trying to suck the water out of the carpet. And then I was forced to make a decision. So I sat there and I thought, all right, what am I going to do? Well, if I have to take everything out of those 3 rooms, I might as well remodel. Well, okay, so I'm going to have to get a loan to remodel the way I want to do it. Well, if I have to get a loan, I might as well get enough money to set up a nice projector room and get some of the things that I want to get from Pyradyne. And then I said, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well just go borrow enough money so that I can go down to Tucson to the Gem and Mineral Show and get some really outstanding crystals. Well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well put some more money into the business and really make it nice and have a lot of fun. So that's what I did. And people again said, are you crazy? Your house was paid off. I said, you know, if the only important thing that we do in this life is help each other to remember who we are, why the heck wouldn't we do that? So that's what I decided to do. So apparently the insanity continues. So I went ahead and I got the stuff. I have 4 projectors set up with 4 sets of lasers, 1 red, 1 green for each set, that are set up in a room in my office. And I'm going to talk to you about the study I did in a little bit and talk to you about what I have found about the projectors and how amazing they are. And by the way, I want to get all this stuff too, but that's going to have to wait. I have to do a little more manifesting first, I think.
You gotta win a lottery.
Yeah. Well, you know, they actually had somebody buy a projector because she wanted to win the lottery. And she called up and complained because she hadn't won the lottery yet.
Did she buy a ticket?
That's a good question. Yeah, that is a really good question. I don't know. I think she did, but it was kind of funny. So the other part that I wanted to tell you about me is that everything that Dr. Bill and Dr. Fred have said, I can corroborate. Not the personal experiences that they've had, but I've come to the same knowledge about what's going on in the secret government and stuff, kind of from a roundabout way. One of my boyfriends was one of the minor welders who was digging those big tunnels that you speak of. And I forget how big the drilling machine is. It's like 3 stories high or something. And I think they have like 30 men or something that operate it. And so he was digging those tunnels. And he talked with the scientists that were creating the lasers that can pick you off from outer space. And he said they can not only read the newspaper, but they can pick you off and you'd never know it. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And he told me about all of the different types of magnetic weapons they had and sound weapons, because they're all tested in those tunnels underground. Then I have another friend who was best friends with one of the genius children that was doing a lot of work underground with the Greys and such. And he told me all about it. He said I had to get away. It was scaring the heck out of me. So he told me all about what was going on underground. Then I've had friends in Sedona that have told me about the underground base in Sedona, and we used to go up to Rachel's Point and sit there and watch the UFO hangars open up and just watch them come out. So I've seen I've seen a lot of UFOs in Sedona. And I used to live in Las Vegas. I'd sit out in the backyard, my glass of wine and my binoculars, and I'd watch the ships doing their maneuvers between about 10 and 2 every night. So there's a lot of things that I've seen and heard of, and I don't know why I've got that knowledge. Maybe it's just for this moment. I don't know. Also, my late husband was one of the members of one of the large banking families of the world. And by the way, Grenada was not a communist action. Grenada happened to stop my husband and his family from taking over the island of Nevis, where they were going to destabilize the whole banking situation in the whole world. So Ronald Reagan, who was best friends with his grandfather, decided that they couldn't do that, and he sent in the troops. So I thought that was fascinating. And he said, I was going to be the biggest dictator since Papa Doc. Mm. So that was just one of the many things that he was involved in. My late husband was not in with his family on a lot of things. He was the American version of James Bond. He was kind of secret CIA. And so he was involved in a lot of things. He was at Waco trying to convince the FBI not to do what they did. He was at Ruby Ridge trying to convince the FBI again not to do what they did. And he was involved in quite a few actions. He was the sniper who took out a lot of people, and then they let the police department take the claim that they shot snipers. He went all over the world assassinating on the government's orders, which was kind of interesting. Healer, killer. Yin yang. So he was an amazing guy, and he was a genius. And one of the interesting things I had happening with him was we'd look at the news, and I'd say, that's not what's happening. And he'd look at me and he'd say, what do you mean? What do you think's happening? And I'd tell him, and he'd go upstairs and he'd get on his computer, and 40 minutes later he'd come back and he'd say, you're absolutely right. How did you know that? Nobody knows that. I said, how could you not know it? If you're intuitive, if you're in touch with the source of all that is, you know what's right. You don't have to go ask anybody else. You just go here. And when you do that, you will always be in the truth. So I did that a lot and gained his respect. He thought psychics and intuitives and such were all ooey-wooey, you know, until he spent a little time with me. And I think he was taken out. He had an aneurysm right where the aorta connects to the heart. And he was totally healthy. He was so healthy that the coroner insisted on an autopsy because they couldn't understand how he could have died like that. But he got to the point where he believed in God or in the source and walked into love. And that was the point that everything changed. And he exited the planet. But he did great. You know, in 14 months, he made the most incredible transition I've ever seen. So there's a lot of things that have happened in my life that I can corroborate a lot of things that Dr. Fred and Dr. Bill have said because of that. Because I've heard stories. You know, I've observed things, and I'm here to tell you what they're saying is true. It's horrifying, but it's true. And with that, let me say to you that the most important thing that we can do is not get scared, because when you move into fear, you're feeding them. But what we need to do is we need to observe what's happening, move to stop it as much as we can in whatever our role is, and keep joy and love in your heart, because then nothing can touch you. And they've been after me since I was 3. They started abducting me at least when I was 3, maybe before, and trying to stop me throughout my life. And I've had a lot of attempts on my life, and I'm still here. And through that, I have discovered that they can't take you out unless you decide to go out. So it's really important to keep hope in your hearts and love, and just watch what goes on, but then go on and do what you have to do as a warrior. Okay, enough of that. So, what I'm doing with the projectors, and I apologize for not having a PowerPoint presentation. I didn't have time. We just finished the study on Wednesday, and I left Thursday morning at 3 a.m. So what we did was we took 12 people and put them in this study, and they're all psychics. Let me back up a bit and tell you about the initial thing with the projectors. When I first got them, do you all know Steve Barish? Have you heard Dr. Fred talk about it? So Steve,
I cook for him.
Oh, excellent. So Steve has a lot of the projectors, And he's the guy who's been using them for a year or more. Right around a year, right? And he doesn't use the lasers yet. But I started calling Steve and asking him how to use these things. And when I first got them, I set them up and I went, okay, what are they supposed to do? And I called up Steve and he says, well, dear, you don't have them angled right. I said, okay, what am I supposed to do? And so I had him on the phone and walking around. He goes, well, put this one this way and this and that one over this way and this one over that way. And I went, okay, so I did all that. And then I'm waiting, looking around. Steve, nothing's happening. He says, don't you see the white light? I said, no, which is really weird because I usually see the lights. I said, I don't understand this. What's really going on? And he said, well, I don't know. He said, but you should be seeing this vortex going up and a vortex going down. And I said, okay. Well, I said, I'm going to Colorado to visit a friend. I'm going to take him with me. So I took them all apart and took them with me in the airport. That was exciting. And I got over there and I set them all up in the room where I was staying for a week during my elderhood ceremony. And so I'm in there in the room and I'm living in this. And Steve says, well, as soon as you can, turn them sideways. Because if you turn them sideways, horizontally, then you will face every fear that you've ever had to face in your entire existence. He said, things that you don't even know that you're afraid of are going to come up and hit you between the eyes. I said, okay. I had to do that. So I turned them sideways. Well, I guess get this stuff over with, So I turned them sideways and I'm sleeping in that for a week going, Steve, nothing's happening. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. I was like, He says, well, how high off the floor do you have them? I said, well, they're, on chairs. And he said, oh, no, that's not going to do. They have to be up to 72 inches. I said, I can't do that at somebody else's house. So anyway, we played with them and meditated. There were 4 of us that meditated together one night. We put them up a little bit higher. And on that night, we didn't determine where we were going to go. We didn't decide we were going to do any kind of guided visualization or anything. We just all sat down and got quiet. We all went to Andromeda, including my friend's husband, who fell asleep. And we all saw him there, and we all saw each other. So I thought that was really interesting. And each one of us was in a different part of this big room. It was all lots of glass and everything, and you could see the cosmos out there. It was just beautiful. I'm not sure if we were on the planet or we were in a ship around the planet, because I was too busy going, wow, and running around having fun. For myself, they put me in this bath that it was like a giant aquarium. And so they laid me on this thing, like bubbles came up from underneath, and I kind of rested on the bubbles. And then these lights came. It was like an alive kind of a life form almost, but it was just sparkling and just gorgeous. And it would come to each chakra, and I kind of infused the light into my chakras. And then they took me out of that, and they put me in this room that was purple flame, but the flames felt like feathers. And so I'm standing there going, okay, I guess I'm getting dried off. It felt good. And then I came out and I looked at my friends, and they were all undergoing different things, and we all came back at precisely the same instant. So that was really interesting. And then we had to wake Jeff up. But the rest of us, we came back immediately. So we tried a few meditations, and we actually felt the Andromedas come in and stand next to us, and we stood in a circle, and we held hands. And I said, okay, I'm feeling things, not seeing anything. And again, I called up Steve, and Steve says, well, look down. Do you see the core of the earth? I said, nope. I see floor, and I see toes. And I said, what is going on with me? Normally I see these things. Well, what I've come to understand throughout the time that I've been doing this is that you change the way that you're seeing things. So instead of seeing them so directly with your eyes, you see them more inside your brain, which is more real than what's actually being projected. And one of the famous readers in Sedona said, you don't want to really see with your eyes. You want to see inside of you, and you want to feel, and you really want to have that connection, and be one with the source, and then everything is true. So I thought, okay, what do I know? Sounds good to me. So I kind of calmed down about not seeing them. So in the meantime, I went home, and I set the little things up kind of around in my living room, which now had all of the guest room built-in furniture sitting in it, stacked around the grand piano. And I have a little house. It's only 1,600 feet. So I've got a lot of stuff in there. And so I've got all this stuff cascading all over the place. And I thought, well, I'm kind of disappointed. I want to get these things up. I want to try them. So I just kind of stuck them up at the same level all around the room, and I took out a red laser and I hit the jewel on one of them, and it went zip, 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 all the way around through the other ones. And I said, wow, that's kind of interesting. But I couldn't hold it steady. So then I just sat there, and I was thinking, you know, I really need to get these things put up. This costs a lot of money, and I need to see how they work. I need to get this going. So I sat there amidst all my little projectors, and called up my friend, and she gave me her handyman's number, and I called him up, and he said, oh, I can't possibly get to it for 2 or 3 weeks. He said, I'm booked solid. And I was disappointed, and I said, okay, well, I'll try to find somebody else in the meantime, you know, tentatively schedule it. And I hung up the phone, and I'm sitting there kind of bummed out. And then I went, wait a minute, that's unacceptable. I need him to come over and put those in tomorrow. And then I just kind of forgot about it, and I'm just sitting there looking at the red rocks, drinking my coffee, and the phone rings, and it's the handyman. And he says, you know what, I can come tomorrow and do those. Ooh, thank you, thank you. So he came out and he installed them. It took a couple of days to figure out the angles and all that kind of stuff. And I called up Fred and said, listen, how do I do these? I called up Steve and said, Steve, how do I do this? So we figured out the way to put these things in. So then a couple of days go by, and my friend, the contractor, is supposed to be stopping by in Laguna Beach and picking up the rest of my order, which included my master crystal, who had been talking to me for 2 weeks. Now that's the first experience I ever had with something like that. I've talked with crystals before, but I hadn't even met this one. And this was the real clear one that was on the website for a long time. And anyway, so they were just sitting there waiting for me to pick the stuff up, and the crystal said, excuse me, why am I not with you? And I was going, wow, the crystal's talking to me. I said, well, I'd really love to have you here, but you know, I got to wait for my friend to bring you. And the crystal said, I have to be with you. I said, well, I want you here too. And so then I thought, all right, I got to call this guy up. So I called him up, and he said, well, I'm going to be in Sedona for 6 days, but I can't even come by for 5 minutes. I said, what are you talking about? You got to go past my office to get into the rest of Sedona. What do you mean you can't come by for 5 minutes and drop off my stuff? No, I just can't do it. I have to be with my client 24/7. I went, wow, okay. And I hung up, and I was really bugged out. And then I went, wait a minute, that's unacceptable. I need to have my stuff. I need not everything. I need to have what I really need, which was my Pyradyne and my crystal. And I decided that, and then I just sat there. 10 minutes later, the phone rings, and it's my friend. And he says, you know what, I'm going to bring you what you really need. What do you really need? I was going, wow, this is so cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So he did. He showed up and brought me my stuff. The crystal is really interesting. It's a family crystal. It's a twinned pair, and they have offspring. And so I was searching for a name for it. It's sitting in the front window right now getting sunlight. It likes that. And that's been an interesting little association, getting that to the house. When I was talking to it, I thought it was male, and my friend that brought it said, no, it's female. And I got it at the house, and I went, whoa, it's a twin flame pair. And they have offspring. Now, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing with this crystal, but I can tell you it has some big plans. So I guess I better get off my duff and do something. I'm not sure what. We'll find out. So there was that. So then I had all the things kind of sitting there and still, and it was about a week before we could get everything really set up well. And I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of musing to myself as I look at the red rocks. I said, you know, I really need some help. And I had just moved my office about 6 months before, so I didn't have the clientele yet. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? I don't know if I'm going to have clients or when I'm going to have them, you know, what I can afford or anything else. I thought, I really need somebody to help me. And it's got to be somebody who's perfect, somebody who is going to be fun to be with, who's going to grow through association with me in my office, who I am going to have fun with, who's going to handle all those little nitpicky details that I hate, like paperwork and timetables and, you know, schedules and things like that. Someone with a good telephone voice. And I didn't even think about how I was going to pay this person. I just figured I didn't have the money. So about a week later, I'm standing in the office, and I'm about to do acupuncture on a guy, and this lady walks in, and she looks confused. She looks at me, and I look at her, and we think, wow, that person looks familiar. And I said, can I help you? And she said, yeah, I hear you're looking for help. And I went, no, because I'm thinking, looking for help, but can I afford help? and then she started talking a little bit more. I said, wait a minute. She said, my friend told me that someone here was looking for help. I said, well, have a seat. So I went and did the acupuncture with the person in the projector. I came back out and talked to her. She handed me a resume. I went, huh, resume, put it down. She's thinking, oh no, this is going bad. I said, what do you really want? She said, what? I said, what do you really want out of life? She said, well, you know, I'm a reader, you know, I do crystal readings and healings, and, you know, but I really, what I do is open dimensional portals within people so that they can be enlightened. And I start laughing hysterically, so she's looking at me like I'm a lunatic. Well, I have those moments, you know. So I said, well, you just walked into the only place in the U.S. that is public access that is designed to do exactly that. So long story short, I hired her, and we just had a great time. She's exactly the person I needed in that position. And all I was doing was, I wasn't doing any big rituals. I was sitting in my living room with these things around me, including the big mess from my remodeling, and just kind of had that thought that that's what I really wanted. So when you're using projectors, you need to control your thoughts. You need to be especially careful that you don't have bad thoughts about people, because we don't want to create any karma with this kind of stuff. You don't want to hurt people. And so it's very, very important to control your thoughts at every moment and to stay in that position of love, that space of truth. And then stuff just happens. So I can tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, stuff happens with those projectors. And it has just been a wild ride. So now whenever I want something, I go into that room and I speak it. And it happens. It's really interesting. Now, some things are quick. Something in front of the projector, or you're wearing a projector, like I like to hold mine, you know, to make sure that I've really got the connection there, even though it's on me. And the first thing I say is, my desire is. And then I release, you know, whatever's been impeding that, my belief systems, doubts, fears, you know, whatever. Release all that, as then my desire is. And then I see myself getting it. So the thing with the projector is, don't see yourself getting the money to get it, see the end product. See yourself actually being that, living that, having that. Because you don't know how it's going to happen. You know, it could happen, say you want a new car, and you go into the room and you have your pamphlet of the car. This is what I want in this color. And Fred suggests that, you know, when you use the radiators, that you bring in a, you know, sample of the carpet and the paint and, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's too complicated for me. I like just doing it easy. So I went ahead and, you know, I started formulating how to do this. The most effective thing that I've found is when you let it go. So what you do is first let go, release all of your stuff, move into my desire is, and then see yourself having that, and then thank you. So it's kind of like prayer. You know, when you pray, you're saying, hey, Dad, nice to see you. I'm over here. You know, I love you. And, you know, I could really use some help with this. And thanks a lot for listening. I love you. Bye. That's all prayer is. You know, you're just remembering where you came from. So this works the same way. This is what I call a prayer. When I do a prayer of intercession for somebody, I'll get into that later, but when I do the prayer of intercession, it's basically the same thing. When I go into the room, I'm asking for that person to have whatever it is that they want. So when you're doing this, I'll give you lots of examples of things that we've done. Before I had the projector, the personal projector, I went into the room and my assistant and I would sit on the table. And we'd be going, hey guys, you know, send in our guides and guardians and, you know, whoever we need to talk to right now. And we're sitting there in the dark, you know, with laser beams all over the place. And we just kind of wait until we feel that there are spirits in the room that are happy with us. And by the way, make sure you have a star orb or a Deva star up. Do not use these kinds of things without those pieces of equipment. Because when you increase the positive, you will also increase the negative. And now I didn't try doing it without the Deva star because Fred said everybody that does not get one of these pieces of equipment ends up with one. I said, Fred, say no more. I understand. I do not have to make the same mistakes. So I went ahead and I put up a star orb in the office right away before I even opened up the box of the projectors. And then I put a Devistar in my house, got them all wired in and everything else. And so things have been hunky-dory. So that's a good thing. So we go and we sit in the room. And if I'm looking at my schedule and I'm going, you know, I need 2 new patients this week for full exams and everything, and then I need 10 people to be in the room. Then we sit there, we go, guys, this is the 3rd dimension. We need a little help. You know, we're down here playing this game. We need some game pieces. That would be money. So please send these people in. Send in the people that we can help, who are going to be happy to pay us and are able to pay us. And we're not even out of the room. We're sitting there still saying this, and the phone rings. And it's a new patient. And then we answer the phone and make the schedule and everything, go back in the room and say, wow, thanks, that was great. The phone rings again. It's another new patient. You know? So this is really cool. You know, I'm really enjoying this part. And one thing I need to say here too is that this is not something you have to have projectors to do. Projectors make it easier, much easier. The biggest impediment that we have to manifestation in our lives is not realizing that we can do it. And so I find it's much easier, even for me, to have the projectors, because I know it's going to work when I walk into that room. And I know that when I touch this and I desire something, it's going to work. The other thing I did in my room, because I own it, is I put restrictions on what could actually be done in there. In other words, someone cannot come in with negative energy into my projector room and project that negative energy anywhere. I will not allow it. And I can say that because I own it. So that's part of my little thing. And I tell people when they go in there, you must be in alignment with your truth, with your path, and with the best and highest good for the planet. And if you're not, it's not going to happen. So if you're going to make one of these rooms, and I suggest you do, then you might want to do something similar so that you don't have people going in there hateful. And we have a couple examples of what happened to people that got hateful when they started using the room. So nothing really bad happened. You know, they got switched around a little bit. So then what we started doing is we started seeing how patients were reacting in this space. And my idea about this whole thing was that we would put people in the room and do acupuncture or tuning forks or, you know, whatever, and they would automatically heal. Because when I talked to Steve, Steve is now a miraculous hands-on and distance healer. Now, I don't know what kind of talents or abilities he had before, but he's an amazing guy. You can call him up on the phone, he can do healing over the phone. It's just absolutely incredible. What Steve said to me was, if you are even close to enlightenment, you will become enlightened through using a projector room. Well, that was all he had to say to me. I had to get him. So I can tell you that this does happen. Even if people think that they're not in there for enlightenment, they all start moving on that path, which has been really, really fascinating. And I'll show you some of the things with some of the stuff that I brought here. I can tell you that there are many times when people have come in off the street and not even known why they're there. And my office is in a little courtyard. It's very cute, but doesn't look like anything from the street. There's only 9 offices, 8 down, 1 up. And they wander in. This is not a little tourist trap thing. You know, there's no shops there. It's doctors and dentists and massage therapists and skin salon and a Edward Jones rep. And that's it. So there's nothing there to lead people to believe there's any shops to look in. And yet they wander in off the street looking confused. And there's this big arched window that Susan sits next to. And she looks out the window, and there's somebody just standing there going. And she goes out, and she says, "Can I help you?" And I go, "Well, I don't know why I'm in here." And so we both start to giggle when we hear that, because we know why they're in there. And then Susan says, "Well, what are you looking for?" "Well, I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to come in here and look around." And we go, "Okay." And then we just kind of leave them. We don't invite them in or anything. We just wait to see what's going to happen. And invariably they say, "Well, what do you guys do here? What's a natural resonance?" And by the way, Spirit gave me that name. My clinic name is Natural Resonance Clinic, which is now fitting quite well. So they come in, they ask us what's going on, and we tell them. And I charge $65 for 15 minutes for the room. It should be about $250 to recoup what it cost. but people wouldn't be able to afford that. And I have a nefarious plan. So, yeah. No, my plan is that if you can get people enlightened in this room, then let's do it. Let's get as many people through this projector room as possible. Let's get as many people experiencing their own true selves as possible. So that's why I made it 65. I asked Spirit, what price to do it. And that seems to be working, because even the people that are on welfare can afford the $65 to come in and help themselves. And I am not the guru. I don't have to stand there and tell them anything to do other than the simple process. And then I walk out, and it's all between them and their guides and God. And so that kind of keeps me in a nice position. They're not dependent upon me. They're dependent upon themselves and upon the guidance that they have. So we have these people that wander in, and whenever a couple comes in, we can look at them right away and we know which one of the couple is going to have the best experience. And I guess it's because we're noticing more light in one than the other. I'm not sure. But we put them through there, and everybody feels something. Even if they don't believe in any of this stuff, I just tell them it's quantum physics. And it's the new stuff. It's frequency, it's quantum physics, medicine, and it works. And they say, okay, so they lay in there for 15 minutes, and we put on Fred's Galactic Meditation Cd. Have you guys heard that?
Yes.
It's awesome. It's totally awesome. It's my favorite one. I don't even listen to the other ones hardly. I just go for the Galactic Meditation. So we put that in there on the stereo, and we turn off the lights, and so there's just the red and green lasers. They don't move. They just stay in one position, centered on the jewels, which, by the way, is not easy to do. It takes a lot of manipulation to get them that way. And I'm here to tell you it took a while. And when the people upstairs start stomping, it gets pretty bad, because then I have to get on the step ladder and reposition the lasers. I'm getting better at it, though. The other thing that we have is we have help. When Susan walks in the room, if I'm not around and the lasers are askance, she goes, "Oh, come on, guys. I need some help. Will you fix these lasers?" And she leaves the room. She comes back 10 minutes later. The lasers are all repositioned. So we're having a lot of interesting things happening at the office. So we put these people in there, and they come out, and they're like, and I tell them, "Sit down." And they say, "What happened?" I said, "Well, I don't know. Why don't you tell me about your experience?" And we have them write down a little paper and collecting the data for Fred. So they write down their experiences. And it takes them a while before they can talk, because they've never experienced anything like that. Some people see things, some don't. And they write it down, we talk about it a little bit, and then I tell them to close off their back chakras, because you're wide open when you're in that room. And the beings will come in instantly and work on you. Now, one of the things that I found out, which I didn't know, is that the Andromedans come in, there's a healing team for each person that comes in, and they go home with you. I had no idea. I started hearing from the people who use the room, "Well, yeah, that Andromedan team that came in and started working on me, and I felt this and felt that, and all this moved and everything." And I say, "Yeah?" "Well, they followed me home." Okay. And everybody's told me, "Well, they work on me for about an hour every night." So as a result, I have one friend who is really seriously ill. She had 25 years of intractable pain. Awful stuff, on tons of medications, hadn't been able to work for years. And she was an attorney. She could not get through the day without taking a nap a couple times a day. She was in miserable pain all the time despite the medication. So I was treating her as a naturopath. And I had her pain reduced quite a bit, and we're slowly taking her off the medications. And then I put her in the room. Well, I haven't given her an acupuncture treatment now for about 3 months, almost the entire time that I've had the room, because she doesn't need it. She no longer has that terrible breakthrough pain. She's cut her medications down to almost nothing. She looks about 20 years younger. And every place she goes, people are going, "Wow, you look fantastic." She says, "I feel fantastic." Now, I would like to say that I, as the doctor, managed that, but I can't really claim that. It's really her association with her guides and with the all that is that caused that to happen through the use of the projector room. So there's miraculous stuff going on with that. And I can tell you that every person that has gone in there, even if they didn't believe in any of this, felt something. Normally they feel some area of their body being worked on. And I think part of that's because I also hit them with the negative ion shower. So it's going to drop all those negative ions off, and positive ions cause pain. and they increase your resistance to the correct electrical magnetic field. And so it makes it much harder for you to get beyond, certain physical problems. So if I hit them with a negative ion shower the whole time they're in there, they get the double whammy. And they get up and they're really relaxed, and it's like spending a day at the beach. It's really a cool device. So I found that people will come out and they'll say, well, I had this problem with my knee, and now my knee doesn't hurt. And I think, well, that's pretty good. I like that. I went in there the first couple of times, and my back got adjusted. Now, I've had a lot of back injuries. I've had kind of a little wild life, falling off horses head first, falling downstairs head first, bouncing out of a car, bouncing on my head down the middle of a highway, all kinds of stuff. So I have a lot of aches and pains. And I just kind of, I went in there and I thought, okay, first time I laid in there, I was like, and then I went, I don't see anybody. I feel something. I don't see anybody. And I called Steve. I said, Steve, what's going on? I don't see anything. And I called Mitch. Mitch said, well, I don't want you to think that something's wrong. He said, some people see things, some don't. I said, okay. But I laid there, and all of a sudden my back went chunk and moved. And I had not moved. I was completely still. And that happened a couple times. And I'd been having back pain, and all of a sudden my back just readjusted itself while I was in the room. So I thanked them for that. And I've had other things happen. The first month I had those up, I went in there and decided I was going to do release. And Fred said, with your radiators, you don't do the manifestation during the full moon phase, you do it during the new moon phase. Well, we found out with the projectors it doesn't make any difference when you do it. Because I told people when they came in, if it was manifestation or release phase. And invariably everybody said, well, I know you said it wasn't really manifestation phase, but I asked for this, and I got it. So I said, okay, so now we know. It doesn't care when you're doing this. It's very interesting stuff. So I would have people go in there and ask for what they wanted and try different things physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Some people asked for physical stuff. Some asked for material things. But invariably, everybody for the first 2 times asked for things. By the 3rd time, they no longer asked for things. They were asking for enlightenment. They were asking to help the planet. They were asking what they could do, how they could be more in touch with their own life path. And I'm sitting back there going, wow, I couldn't do that. I mean, it'd take me a lot of fancy talking to try to get somebody to that stage. And this happened in basically 45 minutes. 3 15-minute increments in that room. Some people, it happened on the first one. They said, well, I want to manifest this, and they'd go in there, and then they'd come out and they go, I was going to work on manifesting this, and then I decided that's not really what I want. What I want is this. And so I've been very impressed with this kind of stuff. But I decided I was really going to try to find out what was going on with these things. And I told Dr. Fred, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to see exactly what happens. And since Steve told me that if you turn these things horizontally and light them up with the lasers, it's going to be really scary, of course I had to do it. So, so I did. So I went in there and I turned them sideways and repositioned the lasers and laid in there. Nothing. And so I waited for another hour. Still nothing. The 3rd hour was getting really bored and my butt was getting sore. So I got up and said, all right, I tried it another day. I kept trying this. And I realized that I'd worked through all my fears through my shamanic training. And like Dr. Fred says, you know, when your ego's that big, you got to kind of go and do something to impress it to be quiet and go sit in the corner. And so I did. I was down in the jungles doing crazy things. So I guess I worked through them because I've never had any fearful experience in there. And I have seen demons come, but they can't do anything because I have the star orb up there. So they'll come and they'll look, and you'll find that there are a lot of beings that will show up sometimes, and they're truly horrifying looking, and some of them are very negative, but they can't do anything. They kind of just observe. They're like just beyond the portal looking in. And sometimes there's a lot of them, depending on what stuff you're going through and what kind of negative influences are trying to latch onto you and keep you from being who you are. You may see lots of them.
You bring them with you?
Yeah, you bring them with you. Well, we tear off as many as we can. And we throw them into the Bolivian or the Peruvian tourmaline. I bought a big crystal about this big from Dr. Fred. It has a big knuckle of green tourmaline on one side, and the rest of it's kind of a smoky tourmaline. And that's what we use to dump a lot of the negative stuff in, and then we go smudge it and tune it with the tuning forks and stuff like that. Which reminds me, the other cleansing thing that we do, I was in there one day with Yananda. Yananda's a world-famous reader, really nice guy. And I walked in, put him on the table, and he said, oh, he said, your crystal friend is here. I said, okay, that's nice. He said, she brought robots. I said, huh? What do I need with robots? And he said, well, they're house cleaners. I said, I could always use house cleaning. That's not something I like to do. So I said, what do you mean? He said, no. He said, they clean negative energies. And he said, there's one for each projector, for each wall. And he said, they're going to be here permanently. And whenever you feel like you need cleansing, he said, just say, we need some house cleaning, please. I said, well, how about we just set it so they house clean between each person? And he said, yeah, they'll do that. I said, okay, great, thank you very much. And turned around and walked out. There's been some really interesting things happening in that room. So we have had that going on for about a month now, and things have been a lot calmer. But like I said, the negative guys can't do anything. They can't get at you in that room, because that room's protected. You know, I've got my star orb in the office, small office, so I just have a star orb. But I've got it wired into everything. So it does prevent that kind of stuff from happening. But they can still come and look at you. And they used to like kind of gather around and look at me. I was laying there one time, and I was really moving into my goddess power. And I'm laying there, and a whole bunch of them were all lined up and looking at me. And I looked at one, and I said, hey, you. And he turned around and looked at me. I said, yeah, you. So you can't stop me. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, because now I'm moving into my essence. And by the way, if you didn't hear Dr. Fred talk about this before, he said the only way that you're protected is to move fully into your essence, to be who you really are, to give 100% to that, and then nothing can get you. And he said there are beings in the universe that are so tremendously evil that they eat love for lunch. And I listened to that and went, he's right. What am I going to do? So I've been on this journey to move into my full essence, and it is safety. One of the things that I've noticed since they put the robots in there to clean out the negative energies is that I don't have any of these little demons and stuff looking down on me from the ceiling anymore. So that was kind of interesting and easy. And I didn't have to barbecue anybody to clean out the room. I don't know about you all, but I smelled barbecued last night. Dr. Fred is a gonzo smudger. and I love sage. That was interesting. Kind of like being in the sweat lodge. So one of the other things that we've noticed about this room is that it changes with the moon, but it does not change as much, I guess, as the irradiator energy does. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because it's in the Fibonacci spiral or what. I have no idea. You'd have to ask Dr. Fred. But I have noticed that during certain times of the month, the energies will be really intense, and you'll walk by the room, and the whole room is crowded. And if you try to go in, it's like, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me. You know? And you look around you, why is everybody in here? And some days that room is hopping, and every person that goes in there, it's like, they go in and they go, wow, that was an incredible experience. And that happened in the study. It was absolutely incredible. And they said, what did you do? I said, I didn't do anything. I don't know what the difference was. I do know that in Sedona we're on a lot of ley lines that can get a little bit exciting there. So what happens oftentimes is you get a jolt of energy through there and it lights up the room. And we had one time when it was pretty intense, and Susan and I both about fell over. And it was not good energy at that point, but it streaked through and continued on. And we were like, whoa, stop, it was awful. One of the things you can do with projectors, by the way, especially in a room setup like I've got and like Steve has, is that if you are feeling out of sorts, you're feeling like kind of foggy-brained and really, really tired. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing that lately with all these energy shifts, but in Sedona there's a lot of us that feel that. And it's like you can't go on, and can't keep your eyes open, and it's just so heavy. And there's so much information coming in so fast. Well, I found that you can go into that room for 15 minutes and you come out completely clear. So that's been kind of interesting too. And I've had it hit me when I was driving between Sedona and Cottonwood, which is about a half-an-hour drive. And I know they're trying to tell me something, and I have to tell them, back off, I'm driving. Leave me alone. I'll talk to you when I get back to the office. And then I go back to the office, and I get in the room, and I lay down there, and I'm gone. They just take me right out, and I have no idea what they've told me half the time. And I've had other things happen. We had one lady that came in. She said that she had sent a bunch of people over to use the room. Well, the people all came over and expected an hour in the room for free. I have no idea why. She claimed she didn't tell them that. But we sent them away. So she came over one day, and I was in the room. And I'm laying there, and I was really, really kind of fragile at that point because the energy had been hitting me so hard. And I was exhausted. So I'm laying there, and I'm just kind of out. And I hear the little ding of the bell on my front door. And all of a sudden, I hear this couple voices around me going, "Watch out, watch out, watch out!" I jumped up off of the table, like, and I'm thinking, should I run out there? What's going on? And they said, no, stay here. And I thought, okay, well, at least I'm hearing something, I don't see anything, but I hear something, that's good. So I'm standing there, and then I went, well, if that's somebody that's not supposed to be here, then get him out of here. And then I heard the ding of the bell. And I went out and I looked at Susan, I said, what's going on? She said, that was really weird. I said, what? She said, well, that weird lady just keeps saying that she's sending people over. I said, yeah. She said, well, she came in here and she was getting belligerent with me and insisting that these people came in and used the room. And she said, all of a sudden, she stopped in mid-sentence, turned on her heel, and left. Didn't say goodbye, kiss my you-know-what, or anything. She just left. And I started laughing. I said, well, let me tell you what happened in the room. So there's that protective influence there, too. And one of the things that I've realized through all this experience is that there are so many beings out there in the other dimensions that are here to help us. So it's not just the bad guys coming after us. We have the good guys standing behind us and around us all the time. And when we remember that and when we ask for help, we get it. Which brings me to another thing. One of the reasons why I went ahead and got this whole setup from Pyradyne is because I was laying there one night with the ex-boyfriend, and we were about to go to sleep. We were just talking, the lights are still on, and all of a sudden, we hear this and a man's voice. And we both popped up and looked at each other, and he said, you heard that? I said, yeah. You heard that too? He said, yeah. I said, what is it? He said, there's a man standing outside your bedroom window. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that's kind of nice. And I said, really? Well, who is it? And he hears a lot better than I do, so he's like, it's a Pleiadian. I said, oh, what does he want? He said, well, he says he's here to protect us, to guard us. I said, from what? He said, from the bad guys. I said, okay, tell him thanks very much. And I went to sleep. And so a couple hours later, about 3 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden I find myself standing outside my bedroom window talking to the creature from the Black Lagoon, who is this brilliant gold and white. And he looked just like the creature, except that he was a little more humanoid looking, but he had gills from here all the way down to here, and he was just shining. And he said, you must shine now. You must. Don't hesitate. Don't be afraid. We will protect you. You must shine. I said, okay. And he said, get out there now. Now. Don't delay. I said, okay. I didn't ask him what I was supposed to shine with or how I was supposed to do it. I never think of those things when these things happen for some reason. I was just so nonchalant about it. Okay, fine. And then I'm back in my bed, and I got up in the morning, and I went, wow. So then I got on Fred's radio show and said, Dr. Fred, this is what happened. And he said, oh yeah, that's an Aegerian. I said, I never heard of an Aegerian before. So he explained that, oh yeah, they live in the oceans, and they come from this other planet, and they're really nice people. I said, yeah, he was perfectly polite, very nice person, told me to shine. So after that, that's when I called up and ordered all my projectors and everything. So I thought, well, I'm going to go for it, go for broke, do the whole thing, And I am so grateful for the things that I have learned and the things that I've experienced since I have started using the Pyradyne products. I mean, they work. These are not toys. And when people reach out to touch my projector or my receptor, which is kind of rude, I usually tell them, don't touch. These are not toys. these are quantum physics devices, and they work. And then I explained to them how they work. Which reminds me, oh, by the way, you can ask questions at any time because you can't derail me because I'm not on track. I just kind of wander around, you know, go with the flow. So, yeah, it's so true. So when I got my receptor, the first receptor I got was silver with the zircon. And I kept testing, and you know, I was afraid ego was in the way. So I was like, oh, yeah, I have to have a diamond. It's like, no. I kept testing, it kept coming up zircon. Okay. So I got it, and they rushed it to me because we were about to have a huge solar flare. And Mitch said, you've got to have this right now because this is going to be a serious one. I said, okay. So it ended up getting to me about 2 hours before this really serious solar flare hit. And I put it on, and I was like, whoa, oh man. I'm standing there just like having this incredible energy flowing through me. And I thought, wow, that is really cool. So I called Mitch up and told him I got it. And he said, you just activated me. I said, really? That's interesting. He says, yeah, whenever a light worker puts on a receptor, they activate other light workers. I said, wow, that's really interesting. I like that. So I get in the car, and I had to go over to West Sedona and do some errands and stuff. And I'm in the car between the village of Oak Creek and Sedona proper, which is about a 10-minute drive, you know, around Bell Rock and Cathedral Rock and all that. And all of a sudden, something hit me. And the receptor started pressing into my chest and pressing me back against the seat. And it was like it weighed 20 pounds all of a sudden. And I'm looking down going, what the hell's going on? So I'm driving, and I get over, and finally it lessens a little bit. And I get over there to West Sedona, and I go in to see one of my friends. And she gives me a big hug, and she steps back and goes, oh my God. She said, what is that? And I said, it's a receptor. And I explained it to her. She says, you just activated me. And I thought, that's very interesting. I didn't tell anybody it did activation. And that was the first thing she said. Every person I hugged after that, I hugged about 5 people, every one of them said.
What is the power of, say, a half system or 3/4 system?
Well, as far as I know, they still work. The difference is, when I set up my system, I got a few kind of interesting comments from Dr. Fred. And I said, I need more lasers. And he said, well, we send one set of lasers with a set of 4 projectors. I said, no, Dr. Fred, I need 4 sets of lasers because I have 4 projectors. And he made a few comments and said, oh my gosh, you're going to be the most powerful woman in North America. And I said, is there any way I can up that power? I'm kind of like the Tim the Toolman Taylor of filming, you know? More power. Yeah, give me more. So, yeah, I mean, I just love it. It's just, I mean, how could you not love to be in a space of unconditional love? How could you not love that? I mean, if you've never experienced that, you need to experience it. Because it's what we're all about. It's who we are, and it's what we do. And anything else is a total illusion. Anything else is just that you haven't woken up and remembered your part in the game yet. So eventually, everybody will get there, and the world will be that utopia, that incredible place. In the meantime, we have a lot of work to do. So I'm hoping that the people will do their parts to help this. And you know, I got to give a lot of credit to Dr. Fred and Dr. Bill and to Dawn. I mean, without them, this wouldn't have been possible for me. And without it being possible for me, it wouldn't have been possible for all the people that come through my place. And for all you guys to hear about the great stuff. Because I know how it is. It's a lot of money to get a lot of these things. And so you're sitting there wondering, well, is it worth it? Can I afford it? Is it going to pay me back? And I say unequivocally, yes! It does work. I've had incredible things going on. Oh, one other thing I forgot to tell you guys. There's a young healer in Sedona who's just kind of learning to wield his powers. And so a friend that was in the study said, I would really like you to work with him because you've been doing this for a long time and he just doesn't seem to know how to direct it. And I said, okay. So he came in and he said, I'd like to use your room and I want to do a trade. Can I trade you my healing services for the room time? I said, sure. So we go in there and he works on things, you know, and we were in there one day about the 3rd time or so, and he said, what do you want to work on? I said, you know, I really want to work on this weight issue. I said, I gained all this weight when I got poisoned. It killed off almost every system in my body. I had like 2 cells left together in each organ that were functioning. And I've been through hell in the last 10 years trying to come back from that. I am coming back from it. My lab work's all normal now. But I still had to wait. And I said, what is wrong with me? I can make anybody lose weight or gain weight, whatever they need, and yet everything that I know to do isn't working on me. And nobody else knows what to do, too. They all just kind of go, So I said, that's what I want to work on. So I'm in the room getting this healing work done on myself. And we get done, and Ari goes home. 2 hours later, this guy wanders across my threshold, looking like a lunatic. He's got hair sticking out in 15 different directions. His glasses are askance. He's got white stuff smeared all over his face. He's got on those tan miner's pants, the canvas, with the label still there from the waist, halfway down his leg. His shirt's kind of pulled out. His eyes are rolling around his head, and his speech is slurred. And he walks in and he tells my assistant, I'm a doctor and I want to talk to Dr. Olmsted. And I'm sitting back in my little niche going, wow, that sounds kind of weird. It turns out this kind of strange lady had sent him over. The one who everybody warned me about, and in the room. So I said, well, let me talk to him. And I said, I'm busy, I'm doing an acupuncture on this guy. Let me get him set up, and in 15 minutes I'll come and talk to you. And he goes, well, I don't want to bother you. And I said, no, it's okay. I'll talk to you. Just let me get the guy set up. So he runs off. And I set the guy up, and he comes back, and I go outside, and I'm talking to him, and my assistant's going, don't tell him anything. Something's wrong. Don't tell him anything. I'm like, okay. And she's pretty psychic, so I kind of listened to her. So I sat down, and I said, tell me about yourself. And he starts telling me that he's Dr. George Swartz, who, by the way, is the doctor who brought emergency medicine and trauma medicine to the U.S. and wrote the first textbook on emergency medicine. And I didn't know that at the time. I checked him out. Or actually, Susan was checking him out furiously on the web. She's very protective. So anyway, I'm out there talking to him, and he starts telling me about this disease that's epidemic and is becoming pandemic. And it's called Morgellons disease. It's a fiber disease. It's actually a nanobot disease. It's really horrifying. They're spraying it in the chemtrails. It's on every piece of cotton that you buy, Q-tips, cotton in pill bottles, clothes, whatever. They can't kill them off very easily. And it's causing horrible, horrible diseases. People have been dying of internal bleeding, and nobody knows why. It's because these worms and things eat through your vasculature. So people are now having wasps and worms and flies and all kinds of weird things growing in their skin and coming out. So this guy's telling me all this stuff, and my eyes are like this big, and I'm like, oh my God. And he says, well, let me test you for it. And he goes out and he gets this mixture of diatomaceous earth and bentonite clay, and he spreads it on my arm. And he goes, oh yeah, you've got it. See those little things popping out? Those are worm eggs. And I went, oh, gross. I mean, naturopaths know that everybody pretty much has worms, and we do worm cleanses all the time. And I had done one about 2 months before and didn't really notice any difference. So then he tells me, nothing that we have that's natural works. We've tried rife, we've tried silver, we've tried this and that and the other, and all these anti-worming things that are natural, and blah, blah, blah. And, people are really sick and they get these lesions. And I said, wait a minute, lesions? I said, take a look at my leg. He looks at it and goes, oh yeah, you've got it. That's worm sign. Oh, this is awful. And then he goes, look at this. He said, I bet you think this is you. And I said, well, yeah. And he said, no. He said, that's lymph. And he said, that's from these parasites getting into your lymph channels and blocking everything. He said, you'll lose a ton of weight. And I'm standing there going, wow. 2 hours after I asked for help, this guy wanders into my office on his trip from Santa Fe over to California. He was moving. And I was just amazed. And he says, don't worry, I have a cure. But he said it's intense. You have to do it for 12 weeks. It's 3 wormers, it's an antibiotic, and an antifungal. Because he said what they found is these little nanobot things are like Pac-Man. They were there to save the cotton crops. And so they eat the cotton nematode, and they eat whatever the nematode ate, and they eat anything that they come in contact with. But they are chemical bioengineered little things. What they're doing is then they are, being absorbed into your skin or whatever. You're breathing it in, you're drinking it, whatever. It's all over the place now. And then as they decompose, they let these things loose. So this is how people are getting worms and wasps and everything else growing inside of them. It's really horrifying. It's diabolical.
What was the name of the disease?
Morgellons. Morgellons. It's also known as the fiber disease. Because when you have the worms, they are like silkworms. They spin fibers. So you have colored fibers coming out of your wound. Yeah, Don?
Yeah, there's a lot of people with that. People I know, people on several year journeys trying to get rid of it. There is a cure. There is a person I know that has beat it with a top clock patient of something, but it's.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what.
telling you, this is a bizarre one. They never wanted anybody to know. They were telling all the professions to ignore it, tone it down. But what you're saying is exactly right, and it comes through your cotton.
Thank you.
The other
Mainly,
name is what?
and in your clothes.
More gallons.
And the other name?
Bad.
Fiber disease.
You have little silver fibers that are like.
Oh, they're bizarre, and fibers are multicolored.
Yeah, and strong.
No, they're nanobots. They're chemically bioengineered. They're life forms that don't have life.
Nanotechnology.
Yes, nanotechnology. And whatever it is that they eat, see, there's about 20 different bacteria and funguses that are associated with this disease, which Dr. Schwartz told me all about. And he said, I found 20. And he started getting these patients that had hundreds of lesions all over them, and they were dying. And so he says, well, you can do this pharmaceutical thing, the natural stuff doesn't work. And I said, wow, that's kind of interesting, because I just did a parasite cleanse a couple months before and didn't do anything. And I do pretty heavy-duty parasite cleanses when I do them. So I started on his protocol, and it was $1,100. Now, how the heck is everybody going to afford that? We have to find a way that's completely natural. Because, I mean, I could be able to afford it. I drove up to Walgreens to get my prescription, and they said, well, one of them's $741. I went, excuse me?
Yes, yeah, 12 weeks.
12 weeks. Yeah, well, you don't, what you do is one of them is like 2 doses, which is 3 pills first, and then 3 pills 4 hours later, which he didn't tell me because that's the other part. He was in the middle of an MSG attack when he wandered into my office, which is why his eyeballs are rolling around in his head. And he's sitting there talking to me, and his speech is getting more slurred, and he's rolling back in his head. I said, oh my gosh, are you okay? I said, have you been driving all night? He goes, oh, I'm allergic to MSG, and I'm having an attack. Must have been where I ate lunch. I took him inside, I stuck him underneath the negative ion shower, and in less than a minute, his eyes cleared. And he came back to himself. I said, wow, I had no idea that would do that. That was pretty cool. And then he started telling me about all this stuff. Anyway, I overdosed myself on one of the wormers because I got the instructions while he was under the attack, and it didn't occur to me until a couple days later, maybe I should call him back. So I started the protocol. By the second dose, I felt better. Now, I have not had dramatic stuff happening. The lesion on my leg is starting to heal finally. But I had it there for 2 months and had no idea what it was. And I normally heal so fast. I'm a type O. I heal real fast. I don't even have to wash the cut off if I'm out in the wilderness. Just everything heals and I'm fine. So when I got something on my leg, which I realized finally was because one of my cats was walking across my leg and slid when I had on brand new cotton jogging pants and got the claws in there, and got the stuff in there. I think that's how I got it. Anyhow, by the time I realized there was a problem, I thought, well, it's probably an insect bite, and I went over to see Dr. James Hutton, who lives in Sedona, who is one of the top certified ozone therapists in the world, and a wild man. He's really a cool guy. Anyway, I went over there and said, James, what can you do here? And he said, well, I'll do some ozone. So I injected some ozone, which, by the way, really hurts. It's like a bee sting. Anyway, so I got that done, and it helped a little bit. And until that happened, I felt like there was a cage around my heart. And I was coming out of my body one night and having this really incredible experience, and I couldn't get my heart chakra open. I said, whoa, that's serious. Why is my heart chakra being prevented from being open? And then I went back in my body and went, something's wrong. And after the ozone, that cage lifted. So this is telling me there's way more to that disease than we know. It's not just a disease. So anyway, long story short, I started the protocol and things are working well. But that's a heck of a lot of money to have to spend, and we would probably have to do it at least once a year. Because you're going to get a dose of these no matter what you do. And by the way, they're dusting us with this in the chemtrails now. And it comes down as a really fine kind of a light tan dust. In Sedona, we have red rocks. Our dust is red, not tan. And one night, I knew they dusted us really heavy because I couldn't breathe inside my house, and I don't have any lung problems. And I went outside, and it was worse, and it was just, ugh. It was just suffocating. And had a hard night that night. Went out in the morning, everything was covered with this really fine silt. And there was no wind, by the way. So it wasn't wind keeping anything up. So this is serious, getting real serious. The spiritual war is on heavy. And if you think it's not, this is your wake-up call. Yeah.
Why can't you program something into your room that you're building to combat this?
I am working on that. I don't know what it's going to take. I went in there and I asked my guidance, what can I do that's not going to cost this much money? And they showed me a machine that I have that's in storage I got to get fixed. It's a multiple wave oscillator. And they said that will completely take it away because it gives you all of the frequencies of a healthy body all at once.
Okay.
So what would you do? How would you,
You just set somebody in it for about 15 to 30 minutes.
and would you do that every year? Is that something you do
Yeah,
on a regular
I don't know
basis?
how many times it's going to take yet. As soon as I get it fixed and get that up and running, I'll let you know. Because by the way, everybody I have tested has this. I've watched the
You
worm
told me
eggs.
about this. We had this conversation, about a month
Yeah.
ago, right when we found out the day after the guy wandered in. He told me all about it. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this was amazing. Lesions. Yeah.
Is that how?
I didn't have any lesions until this last couple of months. But I realize now that I've had it for years.
Bam, someone who's got multiple wide muscle lines.
Yeah, we own Vibe Machine. Gene Koontz, and it does the same thing, it has all frequencies.
Uh-huh. Excellent.
We've seen from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, it's gone. Like a guy using it for 5 months to all sorts of different things. They're just totally gone. Eradicated.
Yeah, and some of the machines you have to use longer than others, but
But
Is that a right frequency, Janet?
well, it uses all frequencies. It gives off all the DNA frequencies. It's got all the noble gases in it.
Oh, no, yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Coil.
that's something that we need because the right machine by itself doesn't work, and the reason it doesn't work is because they can't get a lock on this organism because it's not organic. It's chemical and it's manufactured. It's not a real life form. So that's the problem that the Rife machine has been having with it, because you have to be able to grab the frequency of that thing, and every frequency is different because every little nanobot eats different stuff. And so that's why you have some people that are spinning fibers because they have worms in them. There's other people that are having wasps crawl out from under their skin. There's other people having massive fungus. Fungus is really bad if you get that in your bloodstream. I mean, you can have your entire bloodstream clogged with fungus. And it just, oh, it's awful. It's absolutely awful.
Have you tried Reiki?
Reiki did not work.
Really?
How
Yeah.
about praying laying on a
Sometimes not. And part of the consensus on this, and I'm only starting in this, because this guy just wandered across my threshold like a month ago. And I've been like, oh my God, eyes wide, and I was on the computer like 48 hours straight researching this. And I mean, they are planning on taking us out, and this is not a nice little disease. This is bad.
There actually is. There's I remember I was talking about that, and this individual who had it, incredible disease when you start reading about it. Check it out. I mean, I don't want to bore you. It wouldn't bore you, believe me.
Yeah, it'd scare the hell
it's
out of you.
unlike anything else you've ever seen. In fact, it's a whole new classification because it really is a bioengineered nanobot, literally.
Yeah.
But there is a cure. Jump on the. Well, he said he cured it, and
Yeah.
other people are having it cured. It's a fairly simple product, household product. It's not, you get it readily, I believe. It's a mixture of something. And they've been testing, been working with doctors. It does work.
Oh, cool.
But check on the TNT board. We have a board, a discussion board on our website. It's got the Trusted News Trader. There is a post in there on what it is.
Yeah, good.
And, yeah.
That's on the BBC.
PBSradio.com.
Radio, right?
Yeah, we really need to make sure we know exactly how to combat this. Yeah.
Was it cortisone that he was suggesting using? Because we use something that's far more advanced than that.
Yeah, he said
Silver.
colloidal silver doesn't work.
We use a ferric silver, and it's 62 million times smaller in size. It'll actually penetrate the cell 100%.
Well, that should work.
It does
Now,
work.
I talked to Dr. Bill about
Ferric.
this, and I asked him if he knew about it. He said that the etheric silver does work.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
we carry in our store too.
Cool.
I think I
That's
heard
good to
something.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, if you get on the computer and you look up Morgellons, you will be shocked. I mean, it really, truly is scary. It's an awful disease, and that's one thing that we have to combat. Yeah.
Okay, now if the nanobots are the infectious agent that's getting into the people's systems, what's the connection between that and the wasp eggs and the
Because the
worm eggs?
nanobots are like Pac-Men. They eat whatever is threatening the cotton crop. Then they are not killed by bleaching or by aniline dyes or any of that kind of stuff. In fact, the people that are really infested with them had found that they had to take their clothes, they had to wash them like in vinegar or something else, I forget now, and then they had to put them in the oven at 250 degrees. They had to bake their clothes and then cool them down. then bake them, and it's like, you know, an hour or so that you have to bake it. And you cool it down, and you have to go through 3 cycles of that. Then you have to take the clothes out and put them in a completely sealed plastic bag and leave them there for 3 days. That's what they've had to do. There are some people where the entire family has been infected. Some people where just one member is. There's a guy in Sedona who wanted to be the poster child for this, according to Dr. Schwartz. And I've talked with his wife, and she said, well, I don't have it. This guy had 20,000 eggs coming out of fissures in his mouth. So if you've had a lot of teeth problems, this could be one of them, and I had that too. And I was like, there's something up there. I had the dentist look at it. He says, I don't know what it is. It's just like, it's a fissure, but you know, it's not infected. And this guy had worms and everything else in his esophagus. And when he started on the treatment, he vomited thousands and thousands of worms. They were coming out of everywhere. Oh, it's so gross. It is so gross. And I mean, you talk about a horrifying disease. This is not an easy death, so we've got to stop it now.
Why don't you ask the Andromedans for assistance?
I did.
You did?
I did. And they showed me the multiple wave oscillator. So I know it's a frequency thing, but it's not right. Because they can't grab the signature of the organism because it's not in nature. That's been the problem. Yeah.
Is there any way to find out who developed this for the cotton crop to make them?
It's our government that did it. Our government did it.
Purposely to hurt people,
Yes.
not just for the cotton
Well,
crop.
they say it's for the cotton crop, but it's so diabolical. It had to be purposeful, just like AIDS. Yeah.
Weren't they saying something about it's like that one little article they had about the fly, robotic fly?
Yeah.
Or the robotic insect that actually digests this thing, and through the current that is created through the enzyme from the digest, it somehow creates enough current for these things to continue going. So actually, it's a machine that
Yeah.
eats and continues going on through its eating process.
Yeah. It's truly diabolical, and it's made from
It
chemicals.
doesn't
It's
even feel
bioengineered,
alive.
so it acts like it's alive, but it's not.
So would that explain the extreme obesity that we have?
Yes. In fact, well, that was what I was asking for. I was in my room going, come on, guys, help me. Give me a clue. You know, I'll do it, whatever it has to be. I've tried everything, and I've had experts trying to help me, and nothing's been working. It's like, what is going on? I don't eat enough to be this size.
Yeah, and the children it's an epidemic. You know,
Yeah.
Children, it's so sad.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with this. Well, it goes way beyond that. It goes to chronic fatigue. It goes to insomnia. And one of the ways that you can tell that you have a bad infestation of this is when you sit in front of your computer, if you start feeling like you're being bitten, like you have an infestation, they're biting you from the inside. And I had that happening. They don't like electromagnetic frequencies. And so they... It's a whole long story, but I did another thing in the room with them, and I had the young healer working on clearing them out of my brain. And by the way, this side of my head went crazy when I was talking with Dr. Schwartz. I took him out to dinner, and we talked some more about it. And there was something in my head here, trying to get me to stop talking. And I was like, oh, screw you. I'm going to continue. I'm going to find out about this. So I had the healer come in, and he started laughing. He said, they're threatening me. He said, it's a life form in there. It's threatening me. And he laid hands on anyway, so we worked through it. But yeah, this is serious stuff. So nowadays, this is my buddy Susan, who helps me out at the office. So what we did was we took and I'm sitting down so you guys can hopefully see better here. What we did was we took a form and we asked people, what is it that you're requesting? And tell us what the outcomes are. And then we measured it with the RFI, which is a resonant frequency imager, and I've got it here, and I'll show you later on when I go through what we did with the study. So what Susan did was she requested healing, in particular the heart, because she went into a heart attack. About the second week of this study, I took one look at her and said, what's going on with you? And she didn't know. She'd been diagnosed with indigestion for 25 years. I gave her CoQ10 and it went away. I said, that's diagnostic for heart. So I've been treating her for heart problems, and she's doing great now. So to assist in that request, Spirit shifted 4 chakra energies from orchid to gold. And the RFI will give you precise readings that's better than any Russian Kirlian photography computer program. Okay, it's much more precise. So this shifted her emotional focus from that of spiritual growth to a strong focus on healing yourself with leftover healing energies directed outward for others. To aid in that request, 2nd chakra energies were shifted from burgundy to orange. She went from obtaining healing through satisfying basic needs and desires to balance in this chakra, and a healing of emotional issues that affect physical dis-ease. Another request was to understand what the angels and beings were saying to her. Seventh chakra energies were shifted from transitional state, which is black, to orchid. Orchid is the balancing energy for the seventh chakra and allows the highest purpose to involve the search for truth and the experience of all. Now, I asked her, in my ex interview, which was Wednesday, I asked everybody, what did you get out of this? What was your overall experience, and do you have any complaints? She had no complaints. She said, it healed my heart. It opened the third eye and increased psychic communication and resolved and released past issues in life. And in the end, it opened up a whole new life for her. She has changed 180 degrees since she came to the office. So it's been pretty interesting watching her go through that change. People have just been astounded. And now this is one of the measurements that I used. Let's see if I got it around the right way here. This is a health screen that I give everybody when they come into the office. It kind of gives me an idea of where they are. It's just got all the organ systems and such. And this is Susan's. By the way, I have everybody's permission to show these things. Look at it upside down. The yellows are the before, and the blues are after. So I'm not expecting anybody to read all these little side parts. It tells you which system it is, but it's all the systems of the body, and it's all physical. And this is about a 20-page questionnaire of lifestyle screening. So it gives a pretty good snapshot of where somebody's at. So you can see that she had a lot of yellow areas that were kind of high. And the one on the left is low priority, the one in the middle is moderate, and the high priority is on the right. So she was going into some moderate priorities on a lot of things, and they all reduced. Now, I did a little bit of stuff with her, but most of the people, I didn't do anything, and I wrote on my study that I was not going to do anything to heal them, that no doctor stuff was being done. All I was doing was just putting them in the room. And she did have a little extra help because she works there. But it was pretty dramatic to see those kinds of differences happen. You would not expect that to happen in 2 months. Then we did a thing. If you go to AuthenticHappiness.com, you can check your happiness and gratitude and satisfaction with life quotients for free. It's really a nifty little site. So what I did was I had people do that. And the one on the left is the beginning, and the one on the right is the end. So she went from average happiness of 9 to 10. So that's pretty good. And the percent of the time happy, she's 98% of the time happy. She's just a happy little spirit. So she didn't change much as far as overall happiness. But I found some really interesting stuff with all the people when I did this. Okay, so general happiness was 6, went to 7. 7 out of 7. Can't get any happier than that. At least we can't measure it on that scale. Okay, this is gratitude. I don't know why she crossed that out. But it's a scale of 5 to 42, so she's grateful. You can't get any more grateful than totally grateful. So that was the best we could do. She's just totally grateful. Okay, this one is positive and negative attitude. So this is a 10 out of 50 scale. So she started at 43 out of 50 and ended at 50 out of 50. So that's a pretty good jump in her positive attitude. And when she first came in, I had to remind her a lot of times, excuse me, where are you? And she'd look at me and say, what? And I'd say, you're in Manifestation Central, and you're saying that this doesn't work, and that doesn't work, and this computer is stupid. And I said, I just bought a brand new Mac. It's not stupid, believe me. You know? Yeah. So I said, you need to change what you're saying. So her attitude has changed a lot because I'm on her about it all the time. I'm like, don't do this. This is Manifestation Central. Don't screw up your business. Satisfaction with life went from 28 to 35. And it's 5 to 35 is the scale. So I thought that was pretty good. So she increased a lot. Now, you may think that that just happened because she's there. Wait till you see. My nefarious plan worked. Everybody got better. Now, I didn't include the results with everybody, I just included the ones that were more dramatic. So, here we go. John. Subject started first chakra readings in a transitional state, which means black. And if you look at the RFI program, they translate black as being negative, passionate, different things. Well, we discovered it's transitional, and we saw people go through a lot of transitions. And so they'd be black as they really changed, and then they go to a higher color. First chakra tells us how subject sees themselves. After the first treatment in the chamber, transitional energies went to red, which is a state of balance for self-identity. He requested perfect health. Seeing himself as balanced would need to be accomplished in the beginning for this to happen. After 2 months, first chakra went to silver. With silver in this position, he had the energies of a protector of both his own body and identity, and for mankind in general. This energy gives him the ability to project the health and nurturing receiving from spirit. 6 chakra energies went from yellow to gold over the course of the study. John went from focusing his mental thoughts on stability and happiness to using his mental and psychic abilities to heal. This affects mental healing as well. Again, the request for perfect health is being addressed here. So I asked him in his exit interview, what did you get from this? He said, well, I feel better, and I'm sleeping much better. I'm losing weight, my health is increasingly better, and I increased abundance by quite a lot, and reduced anxiety. So the thing that really interested him too was his vision. He's remembering his dreams, and then his distance vision increased, and the near vision kind of decreased. And he said, I was wondering about that because so many people had their vision improve. And he said, I didn't understand, and so I meditated on it, and I found out the Spirit was trying to tell me, stop reading and get out to doing, and look long term. What can you do? So when he manifested, he said this is all very relaxing, and each session effects lasted all week. Now, they might have lasted longer, I don't know, but they came in every week. And he was looking forward to the next one each time. He manifested the creation of a community and a ministry. This is in 2 months he did this. It was amazing. He was able to release mundane concerns and move into creating through thought. And his final comment was fabulous. I like those kind of comments. That's a lot of fun for me. So here we have his stuff. So that's bone and muscles up at the top. And see, he started out with a lot of yellow too. And look at how he went down to 0. Right across the board. I didn't do anything with this guy. I'm not his doctor. I just nabbed him for the test. And so all he did was he came in and went in the room once a week. And all those little physical problems he had went away.
How did you measure it?
I'll get to that. That's coming.
It was just 15 minutes a week.
15 minutes a week. And we timed it, and we got him out of there. People were not wanting to come out. It's like, and a lot of them asked me, well, how can I do this some more? I said, all it takes is money. You got to call in on the schedule. Okay, then we go to Sam. Okay, Sam is a writer, and he's had his books have been sold, made into movies and such. So he was consistently requesting focus, more awareness, trust, and oneness with creative flow. So 6 chakra energy started at cyan, which is blue, to orchid. In the beginning, it allowed sensitivity to thoughts and mental or psychic energies of others, and noted Sam being careful with his own thoughts so as to not cause harm to others. If you're going to wear a projector or you're going to have a projector room, that's really important. So know that. With that energy, Sam has the ability to mentally focus on the acquisition and understanding of truth in all endeavors, which are needed assets to fulfill a request for unity with the creative flow, as well as focus and more awareness. The 3rd chakra was also shifted to orchid at the end of the study to give a calm, peaceful state of mind, ability to deal with stress through spiritual emphasis, again to facilitate requests for trust and oneness with Source. So I asked him what he got. He said, I got a great sense of completeness. I was cleansed. He said, I had dark places in my being that became light. He said, I had no idea that would happen. He has better sleep and reduced requirement for sleep. But he was a little concerned that his dreams were somewhat reduced. But he had an overall sense of well-being. He had no complaints. And he said, I got everything I wanted. And I feel I'm here doing what I'm meant to do. Now, the interesting part with Sam was that his gratitude stuff was all skewed. And I said, what happened? You know, he kind of was worse afterwards. I said, what the heck happened? He said, I'm grateful all the time. And he said, I'm in a state of not wanting anything. And he said, at the beginning I was wanting things and I was grateful when something happened. And he said, now I'm just in a constant state of gratitude. And he said, I guess I just didn't fill out the screening tool right. And I said, well, yeah, it looks like you're worse. He said, oh, no. And he said, I'm much better. He said, now I'm always in gratitude. But he said, it's not like, oh, wow, yay. It's more like, continual. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, some people actually got worse during this study, like there. That was hypoacidity. So he got a little bit worse. But he was already in a high priority. Now, the thing I noticed, too, is with this transitional stuff, and I can't tell you the exact things on this because I didn't have time yet, but over the next month or so, I'm going to be completing the data. I have tons of data, and I'm not even sure what I've got yet because I've got so much data. So I've got to go back and compare things week by week and see what colors he went through and everything else, and then I'll know exactly what happened. But he was under a lot of stress during this time, huge stress. And he started out being very negative and very unhappy, and he ended up just calm and happy and just doing great. He said his creativity increased so much he couldn't believe it. He said, I've done the best writing in my life in this last 2 months. And he said, it's just getting better and better. So he's very happy with the process. He thought it was absolutely fabulous. So you can see here he's got several areas where he's in the moderate priority and one in the high priority. Let's see, which one is that? That's reproductive. So that's prostate stuff. But most of them went down. He had a few that kind of went up. But again, the yellow is the before, and the blue is the after. And I didn't do anything medical with him either. I didn't give him any advice. Well, I touched him, but only to wrap him with a blankie when it was cold. So I mean, all this stuff is happening because of the room. I mean, we have proved a lot of things with this little study. Bless you. Okay, here's me. You guys are going to laugh when you see me. Okay, so here I am. I want to be at the forefront for helping the light workers. And so they shifted my first chakra self-identity from Orchid, which was my spiritual side, to Navy as a social and intellectual leader. That assessed me in my request for fame and fortune. It was like, I don't really care about the fame, but the fortune would be nice. So that's what I was asking for. So 4th and 5th chakras were also shifted to Navy to fortify this request. This gives me control over emotional energies and the ability to direct my emotional power to specific topics to give manifestation immense power, which greatly assists in all requests, including those to help herself and others heal. Navy in the 5th chakra, she will exert her intelligence, leadership, and control over situations through her communication skills. Again, needed skills to be a leader in the healing field and for the light. And by the way, I used to have photographic and phonographic memory until the carbon monoxide. And I'm hoping that that comes back. And it's coming back in little drips and drabs, but it's kind of hard to, gear up and really get it going again. So I suffered a lot when I went through that stuff. So I'm constantly working on my own healing. Okay, here's my emotions. I'm pretty happy, but I got even happier. I was ecstatic as I saw these people coming through. Mikkel can tell you, I was calling Mikkel up every week going, Mikkel, guess what happened?
They're great conversations, and the energy was just so powerful because it's so pure, and it's just coming through, and she's thrilled to be helping these people.
Oh, it's awesome. I had the most fun. I want to do more of these studies because my benefit was I just got charged. So before, I was happy about 50% of the time. I was kind of like Sam. I'm constantly grateful, but I had a lot of stuff going on. And I ended up happy 80% of the time. So that was pretty significant for me. So, I don't have a real quiet life, Things move quick with me. Normally anyway, and you can imagine with a projector, remand a projector on how quick things can move. General happiness, I was at 5 out of 7. I ended up 7 out of 7. I'm totally happy. And it's good fun. Oh, you guys, if you could get even a tenth of the joy that I got from doing this, you'd be happy for a while. Gratitude, and I'm constantly grateful. So So there I am. Can't get any more grateful than that. You know, I used to meditate a lot, and now I just go through the day meditating. So I don't spend a whole lot of time, you know, sitting in lotus position because I don't need to. I do what I call walking meditation. Okay, the PANAS questionnaire is positive and negative affectivity. So my positivity went down a little bit because I was really exhausted when we finished the study. And the three of us that were doing the study ran ourselves through it kind of as controls to see what was going on.